Welcome to my channel, and today I am going to film quite important video for me because I finally finished my first coloring book. Yes, I started to color many years ago, 6 already I think, and still I hadn't finished any coloring book yet. That's the disadvantage of having huge coloring book collection. You never will be bored, you can switch between books created by amazing authors, but it's extremely difficult to finish even one book. But finally I made this attempt and I finished Fairy Tales. Fairy tales, it's one of the subject which is one of the most interesting for me in coloring. I am always happy when I find another book by different artists for this theme, and I think that's probably why I selected these fairy tales to finish. Of course, I did only first set of pages here, and even despite all the problems with very bad paper, with switching between various art supplies until I finally found the method how to work on this paper. It was a long story, and finally I finished it. Unfortunately, this story doesn't have a perfect fairy tales end. For me it has quite sour taste now, because now I will film this video and I will put this book on the shelf and I will forget about books by S.Fenech. I definitely don't want anymore to show them, to promote them. Her decision to publish her books in Russia definitely didn't find a proof in my heart. She's definitely can do with her books what she decided to do, right? And I also, from my part, decided that I don't want to touch any of her books for the foreseeable future. But let's have a look at this fairy tales book. I think that I spent 4 years to finish it, from the moment when I received this beautiful gift and until the first picture, which I finished just a couple of days ago. It was a bumpy road, mostly because of the paper, and it was complicated even from the first page here. You probably know that usually I don't color first pictures. I don't put my name on the title page, but here one day I decided to experiment. I found stencil and some of my old distress inks, and I tried to add some kind of pattern with pink distress inks, and it went terrible because I didn't have anything to use, like brush or foam to put on my distress inks, so I used cotton swab and it looked terrible. So in the end I decided to cover everything with black acrylic, and on this paper even black acrylic didn't work very well. It crumbled a little bit, and unfortunately it catch crumbles of pigment from pencil, so it always looked dirty. But it's the only way how I was able to save this page. Maybe this black page isn't the best start for fairy tales, but yeah, it was solution just to cover those ugly pink patterns which I tried to put here with stencil. I think that here I will put years when I first did my first page and when I finished it. For me it will be a good memory. Good thing is that I have almost all coloring videos for this book in separate playlist on my channel, so it will be easy for me to check when I actually started to color here. I didn't color it in order, so there will be difference seen in my coloring skills and also in art supplies which I used here. Here is still a little bit of pink which bleeded through from distress inks. So first I started to color here with Prismacolors. They were quite okay, they worked on this paper nicely, but they also stamped to the previous paper, because paper is very thin. Even if I protected these pictures with cardstock when I did the next page, still very creamy pigment of Prismacolor, it went to another page. But still, I think that pictures which I did with Prismacolors here, they are really nice because they are very bright with all those rich colors, and they were especially helpful, Prismacolors, when I did pictures with those strong highlights and reflections, like here, those candle lights. I try to use them as a source of light, and I try to show reflection of this light on the fabric of her dress, on the window, on the wall, and for such purposes Prismacolors, they are perfect, because in such pictures you need very nice blending and creamy texture of Prismacolors. That's exactly what you need. I'm glad that here I decided to do a red dress. It immediately attracted attention to the belle, so she is definitely a focal point here. But the blue coat of the beast also looks quite nice, so I think that they created a really good balance here. Here, thank you, because that's because of your votes. I did a blue dress on Cinderella. I wasn't sure which color to select, because in the beginning, when I just started the book, I tried to use new dress color for each of the pictures, but then I ran out of creative ideas. But I asked you, and in the comments beneath the video you helped me to select blue, and I think that it was perfect match. Here I would say that I am quite proud of my sky. With this paper it's not very easy to do pencil background, but again, thanks to Prismacolors, I managed to do this very nice moon shining, so you can immediately tell that we have a night scene, and there is a good contrast between this night sky and also a warm light coming from all the windows of the castle. I was a little bit afraid that small figure of France would be slightly lost here, but now I think that we still can see him, even if Cinderella definitely is the main character here. And look at her crystal shoe, very nicely done. I remember that it was a little bit messy to color in this area. Yeah, paper, it's a big problem in all books by S.Fenech. It's one of my oldest pictures, but I still love it completely because of the tail. I think that it was my first attempt to do a semi-transparent part of the tail, and it worked really well. Then this water, maybe for the first time, I added a little bit of black into blue, and it added dramatic touch to those stormy waves. And then I'm very proud that I did unusual sky. For me it's always a problem, because my sky is always blue, my clouds are always gray, and finally I did something unusual again to increase this atmosphere of thunder, of storm. So here I was proud when I found this creative solution. So the Little Mermaid also is one of my favorites here. Well, that's my final picture which I finished just a couple of days ago. And yeah, I started it. Video wasn't of very good quality, so I decided that I won't be publishing it because something wasn't right with the light. It's the only one page which is not available in my playlist for this fairy tales book on my channel. And the irony is that I finished it just one night ago, when we have during night 3 bombing attacks, and during the last one I was so tired that I told that I won't be going to any shelter, that I don't care anymore. So we were sitting in corridor, listening to the sound of sirens, of bombing. I was finishing this book to calm myself, and I was thinking about how I definitely want that anyone coloring in Russia books by Selena also would color her books in similar circumstances. And that's my final say for this theme, and I hope that you will understand me why I don't want to touch her books at least for some time. Even if I have a huge collection of them, art is still gorgeous, but the feeling is definitely not very positive. So here we have diamonds and toads, and it was difficult for me to decide how actually to show the difference in characters of girls. I know that it's quite cliche to do one of them with light hair, one with dark hair. I definitely don't think that it shows the traits of character, because myself I have dark hairs and I still have better character than the girl, but that was probably typical thing to color, and I decided that I can use this cliche. As usual, I really love to color those dresses. Even in the end, I spent a long time on covering black lines here, because folds on the fabric, they distracted attention from the snakes and toads, which are important part of the picture, so they had to be visible, and because of the many black lines on the fabric, they were slightly lost. But when I used a pastel purple Posca here and dress started to look a little bit paler, finally those snakes and toads started to be more visible. Here it was easier because on the blue background, red roses and golden coins, they are better visible. In the beginning I did pictures here only with pencils. In the end I started to do at least marker background, and even if I am not very happy with the bleeding which we have on the left side, somehow it bothers me still. But here I did this light marker background, and at least it helped me to color it quicker. That's probably my least favorite page. Somehow here I selected such bright green colors from the color set that it's so unnatural looking, and it totally doesn't match color of the sky. So something was wrong with color choices for water and green, and unfortunately it distracted attention from the beautiful Thumbelina. But I think that you can allow yourself to have at least one not very successful picture in the book where you actually love the rest of pictures. So, this one I absolutely love. Here I used crazy blend of pencil brands, because I used Star Joys, I used polychromoses, I used Prismacolors, and surprisingly, when you combine softer and harder pencils, you can color even on this paper, because softer pencils help you to do backgrounds, especially all the huge areas of sky, of grass, and with harder pencils you can do textures, because here we have a lot of hair, fur, and other things. Here I think that I also added acrylic paint on the fur of wolf, but video is available on my channel, so if you need it you will be able to watch it. Of course I always use a lot of Posca markers here, because many of the lines I prefer to mask. One of the reasons why I loved to color here so much, because we have many pictures with interesting sources of light. Like here we have fireplace, and I had to calculate carefully where will be all the highlights and reflections from the fire. Here on the steps near the fireplace, then on fur of the bear, and on the dress and hair of the girls. So it was interesting, and of course always beautiful dresses and interesting hairstyle, also quite nice to color. Another one which I'm quite proud of, because honestly I didn't know in the very beginning how to show the atmosphere of the ice palace, everything made from ice, and also I had to do blue dress for the Snow Queen. But in the end, when I decided to combine blue as a main color with a little bit of greenish and pinkish as the reflections, at least here on the stained glass window, everything worked. And I love this good contrast between warm colors on the fur of the a reindeer and a dress of the girl, comparing to the cold colors for everything around them. And I think that her dress with all those tiny shining which I made with white and blue Posca, it also looks quite matching the story. Here again mix of Prismacolors which I mostly used for the background to create this interesting but still quite pale background. Oh yeah, with all these years some pages they collected some dirt. Anyway, so Prismacolors for the background and for her dress, for her hair, and I think that for the foreground here I used polychromasis. It was a little bit creepy. I definitely didn't enjoy to color the cat head of the horse, but well, that's a story. Honestly, some of the fairy tales I didn't remember in all of the details, like Diamonds and Toads or the Goose Girl, but I hope that I still colored them according to the story. Here we have this Vasilisa the Wise, and again here it was interesting to show how the torch made from skull highlights everything around, especially along the right side of her dress, on her arm, on her face. And I decided that I can use unusual color combos for the grass and leaves around the witch house. I joked that definitely around the witch house you can't expect the perfectly ecological plants, so they can have the craziest colors. So that's why I added lavender and purple to the blue and greenish blue colors. And I think that in the end it worked, because classic color combo of blue and red, it always look nice, and those surrounding colors, they add to atmosphere of the fairy tales. Oh well, another one where I struggled with my greens, because if you remember the page, it was a little bit empty with the background. She was one of my favorites because I really love her pose, her dress, and her face and her hairstyle, so she was a beauty. But here we didn't have anything on the background, so I waited for several years until I finally finished it. I added this stone wall. I think that she's sitting somewhere in the yard of the castle, but here my biggest challenge was to do those imaginary bushes, parts of the green garden behind her. Well, maybe green again is a little bit too bright, but that's a problem here, that colors you want to use, they don't blend here. Pencils from other brands, they begin waxy too quickly, so yeah, I was quite afraid that the frog would be lost against the similar colors of the background, but then I added a little bit of Posca, and now it's, well, visible, what I can say. Still, I'm proud that I wasn't afraid to do this background from my own imagination, and I think that it added to the spirit of this page, because I didn't want to leave it empty as it was supposed. Here I experimented with Derwent color softs, and surprisingly, if you don't need to layer them in very complicated way, you can use even color softs. Both color softs I used on the curtains, on the pillows, and then I even added Derwent drawings to the column. So you can even use Derwents, but carefully. That's page where I am still not sure if I want to return to it and to mask some of the black lines on the green fabric, or just to leave it. Surprisingly, here I am mostly proud of this shape of the palace behind, how I did it, rather than her dress or anything else. But still, another experimenting with colors of her costume, so it's not bad. This one is quite dear for me because it's one of the first pictures which I did after the beginning of the war. Yes, I took this book with myself, and it was the first one, the second one I think, which I did after break where I wasn't able to color anything. But when I slowly returned, I decided to use this one because I always knew that I enjoyed doing something here, and usually I don't have any big problems with color selection apart from struggle with paper. So here, what can I say? Maybe I exaggerated a little bit with Posca here on her skirt, but I wanted to show this dynamics of fabric, how she's sitting not very comfortably on the tree. So here is her skirt, and beautiful, beautiful swans here. And I think that even if I wasn't sure in the beginning in this dark water and the dark sky, now I think that it was a right choice, because you can clearly see that we have this early morning when she's terribly trying to finish the last shirt for her brothers, and she is very limited in time. So you can see that here we have morning. That's what I tried to show. That's where I started to use alcohol markers. I needed them to do a light color on her hair. In the end, I still used on this hair pencils and markers and even acrylic paint and Posca pens. And for the stones, I also combined softer and harder pencils to cover them in this light grayish blue. I used Prismacolor and Derwent drawing, and then with indigo polychromos I added shadows. So that's how you color on the bad paper. It's best way to combine softer and harder pencils. At least for me it works. Another one where I wasn't sure how to use a background, because colors which I wanted to use, they were from sets of Black Widow, Monarch, or Castle Art pastel tints, light colors which I wanted to use here for the background, which totally didn't want to work on this paper. But in the end, somehow I managed to blend them, and I really loved colors here on the cover, so my idea of those muted pastel colors I copied from the cover. For the rest, I think that I used polychromos. That's what I was saying, that even if markers are quite handy here, somehow I still don't like when we have this bleeding. It's an old one, and here I decided that I don't want to do boring traditional white sheets and other bed clothes, so I experimented with different colors. Also her face, when I started to add shading, because of the paper it looked so dirty that I had to delete part of the shading, and now she looks royally pissed. That's why I always love her face here. It's reflecting my thoughts about this paper when I almost did a hole on her face when I tried to shade it a little bit. So in the end I decided that it's better to have less shaded faces, maybe just 1-2 colors, rather than having them with holes or making them dirty. When paper doesn't allow you to do complicated shading, it's better to take things simple. That's one of my first pictures here, but I still like it. I selected it as my first project because I liked her dress and I immediately imagined it in green. You know that song Green Sleeves? So that's where I took my inspiration. I think that Prismacolor pencils, and I even managed to use a little bit of Derwent ink tents with tiny amount of water here for the leaves. That was a page where I think that I started to try using Sucolor pencils. Again, old story, when I just received Sucolors, I wanted to use them somewhere, but of course for the most complicated areas like fur or the bear or this northern lights, for the sky, for the snow, I prefer to use Prismacolors. I think that here I used Arteza. Arteza are surprisingly not bad on this paper, and here I also used a lot of Posca in beige and ivory color and acrylic paint to mask some of the lines on the straw here. Again, Here the most interesting part was to color her dress, to work on all those folds on the fabric. I tried to show the difference, that maybe that was made from velvet, and here we have more silky and transparent fabric, and her hair here is beautiful. The background with those stones I also added from myself. I decided that to do it completely just dark color, it would be too macabre. Here I mostly use polychromasis for everything, for curtains, for bed, for her dress, for her skin, and only area of the greenery, the tree and bushes behind the window, I did with Prismacolors. This one was messy. Here again I used a lot of artisan because they have very interesting colors for this. Slightly reddish sand and ground. For the sky I even managed to use neo colors, again very carefully with the water, but then again shading on his face made him quite dirty, so face definitely isn't the best part of this page, and also his hair. I somehow covered all highlights so they look a little bit flat, but the rest of the page, colors of the background, I do like. Oh, here it was a huge pleasure to work on all these different colors of dresses. I remembered how, being a small girl, I enjoyed doing paper dolls and to cut them from paper to draw dresses for them. That was a very nice time to color this one. I tried to show that there is a difference in their style of the dresses. When they go into the magical world, they all have those pastel light dresses, more suitable for dancing, and here they have more court style dresses in heavy fabrics, so that's what I try to do. Prismacolors for this area, polychromasis for these dresses. Again, it was a really nice coloring, so and even faces and skin here does look quite nice. I don't know how it looks on the screen, on the video as usual, but in real life I do love how I did shading here, even on this paper. Here I think that mostly I used Prismacolors. I started with polychromacy, something went wrong. I wanted to add those macabre eyes from the darkness, but I didn't manage to draw them very well, so I concentrated mostly on the gingerbread house, and I think that it looks quite yummy. At least I think that I wouldn't mind to have a piece of such a gingerbread. This one is also lovely because I really love how I did cat boots, and it also was interesting because it was for the first time I tried to do proper shading on the white fabric on his shirt. I think that and I love that it's less bright comparing to other pictures here, so it's probably more well balanced color combo here. Not everything have to be bright, but usually I tend to use very bright colors. Yeah, acceptable for fairy tales. So that's again, when I looked at this page, when I got the book, I immediately imagined this interesting contrast of orange and moss and olive greens. It's usually a very nice color combo, and I used it here. I think that it was a really good idea to do a lighter background behind the boy, so even if he has quite plain clothes, because of this background lighter behind him and darker in corners, we immediately look at his face, at the goose. So composition of this page is really nice, and when I finished it I was proud. I think that everything is made with Prismacolors, but again it's an old one. If you need it, you can find it playlist on my channel. And that's all. So I have now good and bad memories about this book. Definitely I would concentrate on my good memories because it was my companion for many years, and I think that my next companion in similar style will be Colorless Kingdom by Chris Ortega. Paper is also not the best, but I already did there several pictures. I know that I can color there, so maybe instead of the other books by S.Fenech, which I planned in the beginning to switch to dark fantasy probably, now I will better concentrate on 2 books of Colorless Kingdom by Chris Ortega. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoyed watching this flip through, and thank you for everyone who colored this book together with me for the last years. You give me a lot of advice how to work on this paper. We consulted with you what colors to select for the next dresses, so it's our common project, and I thank you again. I'm proud that I finished at least one book, and I hope that maybe I need to do just last attempt and to finish my matchstick mouse. So I hope that until the end of the year I will have 2 finished books. Wish me luck, and thank you again for watching.